If I could sit down with my younger self, the version of me who doubted everything, who questioned whether she was good enough, who felt very overwhelmed when trying to learn how to code, I'd tell her a few things that I think would have saved her from so much stress. And I think other women in tech will also benefit from hearing this too. And actually, this can apply to all genders and across all different industries. But obviously, from my perspective, I'm coming at it from a woman who does work within tech. So obviously, this is the lens that I'm looking at it from. So firstly, you're allowed to be ambitious and you're allowed to want big things. A higher salary, better work-life balance, or bigger achievements at work, achieving bigger goals, or building a life that excites you, building a fulfilling life, or achieving these big career goals. Ambition shouldn't be something that you need to dilute or make smaller just to make other people feel more comfortable. For a lot of people, women especially, ambition comes with maybe certain expectations, and it comes with things that, whether subtle or not, this idea that you need to kind of make your goals smaller to not intimidate others, or maybe to seem more humble, or to not seem like you're aiming for things that are too high. So maybe you feel this pressure to downplay your goals or make it seem like you're not asking for too much. And this is very dangerous. And I think I say women because it does affect women more than it does men. But it can happen again across all genders. And even if no one says it directly, there's sometimes this subtle underlying fear that we might have of being judged or misunderstood in that way. And this can end up really limiting our own self-beliefs about what we believe is possible, what we believe we can achieve, and ultimately what we do actually end up achieving. We end up not wanting to share our goals with people, or we kind of, make those expectations a lot smaller. And this can have a real impact on how we think about ourselves, how we think about our careers, and it can influence the direction our careers go in. But really, what other people think is completely irrelevant. You need to be very selective to what advice you listen to and who you're listening to as well. And you can actually use this advice or use these thoughts, I wouldn't even call it advice in certain cases. You can use these thoughts and beliefs that other people have and channel it into achieving what you want to achieve. You can use that kind of to fuel your fire and push you even further. And actually, you don't even owe anyone an explanation, and you don't need to share your goals with everyone. Sometimes it's better to not share your goals with everyone and only share it with maybe a select few people. There's no point sharing those goals with people who might doubt you or people who might try and contain you into a smaller box or smaller goals, or try and stop you achieving essentially what you want to achieve. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to earn more. You're allowed to be a very successful person, whether that be women or anyone in tech. And I emphasize women because women are the minority in tech, and it doesn't mean that there's no place for women there. People can often confuse this ambition with being too pushy or too aggressive or asking for too much. But actually that says a lot more about their insecurities and what beliefs they have than it does about you and your potential. So if other people have a problem with your ambition, it clearly just highlights their insecurities and their own self-limiting beliefs. They clearly feel threatened by your goals or something, so don't let that rub off on you. You kind of need to block out that noise, focus on what you know you're able to achieve, and only share it with those select few people that you can trust and that you really think will be kind of your biggest cheerleaders going forward. Now, all of this ambition can feel very exciting, but it can sometimes also feel quite intimidating, especially if you feel like you need to know everything and have all of the answers to everything right now, immediately. But actually, you don't, and you're not meant to. You will never know everything, and that's something that you really need to get comfortable with, because especially working in tech, the industry is constantly evolving, so you always need to get used to learning new things and kind of feeling out of your depth or feeling like there's so much more to learn, because there always will be. Even the very senior people have to Google things all the time. They have to learn new things, read up on things, and stay up to date with current technology. Your value isn't in having all of the answers, because that's not possible. Your value is in staying curious, being able to problem solve, being able to find out how to find the answers, and using those resources around you. And that means not being afraid to ask questions. Use those people around you, use the people who are more experienced, and use that as leverage to find out what you need to know. Learn from people who are better than you. There's no other way, there's no better way to learn. When I was early in my career, I felt so much pressure to know everything, and I really wanted to come across as knowledgeable and to look as if I knew what I was doing in every single area and every single task that would be asked of me. But actually, that was so unrealistic, and I really thought people would judge me if I went wrong or if I didn't know certain things. But really, no one expects that of you, because, as I said, even senior people don't know what they're doing the whole time. So how can that be expected of people early in their career? The more I progressed, I realized that actually people at all different levels are still figuring things out. And yes, people higher up may know things better or may be quicker at doing things. They may be quicker at finding information out, but really they're in the same boat, just a few steps ahead. Everyone is figuring stuff out together. The expectation of knowing everything is unrealistic for any engineer. And it is just about being resourceful and knowing how you can find this information out. So like I said, the key is to ask as many questions as possible without feeling like you'll look stupid. Because the people who ask the most questions, they learn faster. The more questions you ask, the faster you learn. The more feedback you get, the faster you learn. And actually, not asking questions can end up making things a lot worse, especially if you think about working in tech and working in live environments and work that has real impact on customers and businesses. It's always better to ask questions if you're unsure about things. And I know people say there's no such thing as a stupid question, and some people might not believe that, because maybe, yes, there is a stupid question, but I'd say there's no question that's not worth asking. Because if you're wondering about it, someone else is also probably wondering about it too. So through asking those questions, you're probably also helping out other people. And so now I always ask myself, would I rather face possible, maybe slight embarrassment through asking a question, or would I rather grow by learning something new from the people around me through asking those questions? And the answer is always, I'd rather grow. I'd always rather learn something, even if it makes me look a little bit stupid in that moment. And the reality is, people probably don't even think you look stupid. People care a lot less about you than you think they do. They either don't care or they genuinely want to help. And with you asking those questions, that gives them that space to be able to help you. I used to waste so many hours trying to solve problems on my own because I refused to ask for help at the start. I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to look stupid. And that really set me back. So it was not beneficial for me. It was not beneficial for my team. And it wasn't actually beneficial for anyone. So what I started to do was to kind of implement a time limit. So if you find it scary to ask these questions, set yourself a time limit and say, if I haven't achieved XYZ in this time period, then I will ask for help. And that's kind of that in-between kind of compromise where it allows you to work on things yourself, try and figure it out. And if it gets to that point where you're like, I'm not getting anywhere within this time limit, that's your time to ask for help. And this saves so much time in the long run. And asking questions naturally leads to my next point. You're allowed to take up space in the room. Raise your hand, ask the question, share your idea, and don't be afraid to shrink yourself, make yourself feel smaller just because there are smarter people in the room. It doesn't make your ideas any less valid than theirs. And that's something that I always fell in the trap of. I always thought that no one would want to listen to my ideas, or I didn't have anything valuable to say or share with others because they knew things a lot better than me. So what was the point in me speaking up? And I think this is very common for people in their early careers. They think they have nothing valuable to contribute and nothing meaningful to share because, of course, it would never be as good as the people with 10 plus years of experience. But actually, I think that sometimes newest people on the team often have some of the best ideas. They're coming at things with a fresh perspective and a whole different outlook on the problems that the business or the team might have been trying to solve for ages. And taking up space isn't about being really loud or cutting over other people or interrupting. It is more just about being a part of the conversation, being able to contribute your ideas and feeling a part of the team. It's about knowing that your perspective has value and you're able to share something that will be meaningful. Practically, this can look like maybe sharing your ideas at the start of the meeting instead of waiting till the very end, or maybe sharing your ideas even if they're not fully polished yet. Maybe just sharing, it doesn't have to be a crazy big idea that is going to be changing the whole business and making millions of pounds in revenue or whatever it's going to do. It could just be something that seems so simple to you that could end up being very valuable to the team. Or maybe it's something about how you present your ideas, how you put yourself forwards, how you enter conversations or ask for requests. Maybe it's about starting sentences differently instead of always apologizing. So for example, I know especially as women, we have the tendency to apologize a lot, starting conversations with sorry, but, sorry, can I just ask, or sorry if this is an awkward request, or sorry if this is stupid. If we take away the sorry, our questions, our requests, our input has so much added value and it looks so much more important if you remove that apology at the start, because really the apology is 99% of the time not needed and is kind of just added fluff to our sentences. And it's these small changes that really add up over time and can alter the way that people view us and view our work. And if these things all seem quite scary, quite intimidating, I get it, but just start small. It doesn't have to be anything crazy at the start. It's maybe focusing on how you show up in one particular meeting, or what change can you make that one week, and then what added change can you make the following week. Starting small, doing the baby steps, because they all add up in the end. And that brings me to my next point. Confidence comes from doing, not from thinking. You don't magically wake up confident one day. You get confident through the things that you do, through solving problems that you genuinely thought you couldn't, through pushing through really hard times that you thought you couldn't get through, from doing things scared and feeling the fear but doing it anyway. Confidence comes from the repeated exposure to all of these things outside of our comfort zone, putting ourselves through it and getting through it on the other side. Every time you push through something uncomfortable, That's where confidence grows. You can't think your way to confidence. People always wait until they feel confident, wait until they feel ready before doing the thing. But that's the wrong way about it, because it's the action of doing it that builds the confidence. If you're always waiting till you're ready, you will never feel ready. And all of this is also linked to overthinking. And actually, overthinking is just procrastination disguised. And this is coming from someone who is a big perfectionist, a massive overthinker, and in the past, I have always put things off. As an example, this YouTube channel, I put it off for so long because I always said I wasn't ready, I didn't have anything interesting to share, and I will do it when I've achieved more. I will do it when I am better at talking to a camera. I will do it when... And I had all of these excuses until I just decided to start. And the same goes with a lot of things in life. If you don't just start before you're ready, you won't ever start. The moment you just start doing those things that you're scared to do, the fear ends up losing its power because you're doing it anyway. And one of the best ways to build confidence is to just start messy and then refine it later. So in software engineering, we often work to an MVP, so the minimal viable product. You get something out there, just the small first version, and then you can iterate on it later. And that's kind of how we need to think as well, because we're never going to start with the most perfect version. So as long as we kind of get used to that idea, it helps us become more comfortable with just starting messy and then refining later. And through that process, our confidence grows, we learn more, we evolve, and then we have that evidence to look back on. We can see that we've achieved something, no matter how small or big, we've achieved something, that little milestone, and then we can build confidence from that and continue building. That then gives us this kind of pool of evidence to show us that we are capable of doing it, and it ends up being this continual cycle of achieving something, building a little more confidence, to then go and achieve a little more, building more confidence, and it keeps growing. So the best advice I can give is literally just to start, no matter how messy. And to build that confidence, it often means that you have to put yourself in situations outside of your comfort zone. You have to feel uncomfortable at certain points. But when I say uncomfortable, I don't mean being really stressed and feeling burnt out and striving to go all the way that other end of the spectrum where it is just not maintainable. We want to aim for that level of uncomfortableness that's in the middle, just outside our comfort zone, where it feels challenging, but not too much. Just enough to make us feel like we're achieving something and we can progress with it. We want to be able to see that progress, to keep that momentum going, to keep us motivated. Because if we go too far in the deep end, it's just going to throw us off and really put us off wanting to continue. And that level of discomfort is usually a sign that you're in the right place. We don't want things where they're too easy, that we're bored. And again, we don't want things that are way too hard that put us off. We want to find that nice sweet spot in the middle. When I first started as a software engineer, I remember feeling so lost. I remember being sat in meetings, not having a clue what was going on, not being able to understand certain things within the technical language or certain things to do with the company or business policies or whatever it might have been at that time. But looking back, I realized that that period of discomfort was so essential to my growth, because if I hadn't have been in that situation, I never would have grown. I never would have learnt those things. And it is necessary to progress. Feeling confused, not understanding certain things, and feeling out of your depth are all normal feelings at some stage in your career. It could be when you're early in your career, it could be later on as you progress into more senior roles, or it could be if you're switching careers. They're all completely normal and valid feelings. Discomfort is not a sign you're failing, it's actually just part of the process. Comfort doesn't push you, it keeps you where you are. But discomfort, on the other hand, is the perfect place to be for you to learn new things, to have access to new opportunities, new responsibilities. It shows that you're growing, it shows that you're progressing, and these are all things that we want to strive for. So next time you're feeling uncomfortable in your career or in any stage of life, just know that in hindsight, you will look back and see that as a pivotal moment, and you will know that that is what is needed for you to progress. Just remind yourself that it means you're growing and it will definitely be worth it in the long run. And that brings me on to my last point, the one that makes everything else possible. You have to trust the process. It won't always feel like it's working out for you, but eventually things will always work out. Maybe not in the way you initially anticipated, but things will always find a way to work out. Whether you're learning to code and wanting to be a software engineer, or you're in a different industry and you're trying to learn certain skills, maybe it feels painfully slow. Maybe it feels like everyone around you is learning things faster or progressing faster than you. But looking back, you'll realize how far you've come, and things have worked out in the way they're meant to work out for you, for your journey, and for your timeline. When I was first learning to code, I constantly doubted myself. I made a lot of mistakes. I got things wrong. There were so many things I didn't understand. But looking back, all of those things taught me something. They taught me something I could learn from the next time. And that's the same with anything new you try and any new skill you learn. You will always make mistakes because that's normal, and those mistakes are great learning opportunities. You may not see it day to day, but every little success, every little win adds up, and when you look back over the months or the years, you'll see that progress and see how far you've come. Trust the process. Even when things feel very confusing or overwhelming, just know that things will work out in the end because they always do. You will figure it out. Those are the things I'd tell my younger self. And honestly, the things I still remind myself of today. If you enjoyed, if you found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments below. I'll leave my links in the description box and hopefully see you next time.